And welcome everyone to Carrick's Car Wreck with Ray from Maryland, Ep.1. I am the aforementioned. The interview you're about to hear is a member of the Fans of Trunk Nation fan page and a pretty regular caller on Eddie's show, Trunk Nation. I think you'll find his story and our conversation quite interesting. I'm speaking of the one and only Derrick Pierce, aka Derrick from New Mexico. I had Derrick on for approximately 35 minutes and really enjoyed our chat. Now, I must apologize for the technical difficulties on my end. I didn't realize that my mic had reverted to the default settings. Therefore, my voice is quite low and Derrick's isn't, but I will have this corrected for future episodes. That being said, I give you my conversation with Derrick from New Mexico. I hope you guys enjoy it. And my first guest on the first episode is a guy that's on the Fans of Trunk Nation fan page. We've talked many times as far as messaging and stuff like that. And I think the best way to intro this guy is by saying, hello, Sebastian. Hello, Carrot Top. Hello, Richard Christie. And hello, Derrick from New Mexico. Derrick, how are you, man?
Hey, how you doing, Ray? Pretty good, man. And you?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks, man. That was an awesome intro that you got in there. That's pretty cool.
Well, that's sort of your trademark, I was thinking.
Yeah. I always try to keep it exactly like that, but I just say it really quick, so then that way, whenever Eddie, hears my voice, that he's like, oh, okay, you know what I mean, kind of like I know this guy, you know what I mean. So I think a lot of the regular callers that get in there and that really give something to the show. Everybody knows, like their tagline or right, where they're from. You know what I mean, basically.
Exactly right. Well, the reason that you and I have been messaging back and forth a lot lately. And I thought immediately, if I'm going to, do this thing, that you would be a great guest because of your story. And if my research is correct and things I've seen that you have stated, you've been to, 1,000 concerts or more?
You know what? It's around there. I don't have an official count because, and this is kind of starting, like a little bit of the story or whatever. Back in the, I've been going to concerts. My very first concert was, I think it was in '86, and it was Judas Priest with, there was a couple other bands opening, but I remember that it was Raven was one of them. And the reason why I remember that
would have been the Turbo Tour, correct?
Yeah, exactly. The Turbo Tour, yes, sir. And that was in Albuquerque over here at this place called Tingley Coliseum. And I don't even think I think they do concerts there only for whenever they have this the state fair over there. They have like a whole week's worth of concerts, and they hold them there. But other than that, there's another venue in Albuquerque. Now it's an outdoor one. For whenever the bands do the summer shed tour, as it's called or whatever, right, they usually hit that place. And then there's another small kind of a theater spot downtown, which like it's basically like which any of the other theaters are around America consist of. Where they get those bands where there's like three bands on the bill or whatever. But anyway, so this is over there in Albuquerque, and the reason why I remember Raven is because whenever they finished, Wacko threw his drumstick out, and I actually got it. I mean, it fell in front of me, and I jumped on it, and there was like 10 people trying to get it, and I got it, and I put it down my pants and just took off running. Cause I was a little kid, you know what I mean? So I went to go find my friends because I knew where they were, because I was on the floor by myself, and my friends were like up in the stands. I think they're, I don't know, probably smoking or whatever, you know what I mean? But I went and found them, and it's funny because, the house lights go on, in between bands, and, I get over there and they're all draw, hey, where you been? I said, no, I was down there. And, I whip out the drumstick, and they're like, oh, look at this fucking dude, man. He, it's his first concert, and what happens? He comes away with a drumstick, you know what I mean? Because those guys had been concert goers for a while, and they don't really come back with stuff like that. And I'm over here, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, just waving my drumstick around. So, yeah, so anyway, in the 90s when I started working concerts, that's when I did.
That was gonna lead into my next question, because you did work in the industry in some capacity. Was it like rigging, or what was your thing?
No, actually, it didn't have anything actually to do with with touring production.
Mm.
It was a group of us of about 6. They were just friends, and what we did is we had our own detailing company here in our little city here in southern New Mexico.
Oh, okay.
And it was. Yeah, and it was called, and we named it the Showshine Crew. Well, okay, actually, I'm sorry, they started it before I even got in. So they had, I guess they were like little kids trying to get into concerts in El Paso, and for some reason, and this is their story, what they told me. Like and he's one of my best friends still to this day. He told me the story at the time. He said that whenever they were kids, they're always trying to, they were broke and they couldn't afford to get into concerts, and they were always trying to sneak in like through the backstage area to get into concerts. They kept on getting caught and getting kicked out, and then still trying to get back in. And I think it was one of the drivers one time said, "Hey man, I guess he told him, said, hey, like why don't you guys, he's like, oh here, he's like, you guys come over here and clean my bus rooms, and I'll give you guys tickets or whatever." So, and then so he kind of like led them in the way, say, hey, like you guys could do that. You guys put together. And I was like, wow, that's cool. So, my friend had told me the concerts that he had been working. And I told him, I said, hey, dude, if you ever need any help, I'm down. I love all the music, whatever. I'm down for whatever. So, there was one time, the very first time, this is going to be funny because, like the genre that we listen to as far as the Eddie Trunk show is, like rock and, or hard rock, heavy metal, whatever, right? Yep. My very first concert that I worked, guess what it was, Ray?
I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, it was Color Me Bad.
Oh, good Lord.
yeah. And seeing what's funny too is, he told me these stories about, yeah, dude, like we were kicking back with Anthrax and, doing all this. I was like, okay, cool. So I don't know if that was like a test. He's like, you know what? I bet you they're probably like, let's test him. Like, let's see if he's really down to like actually work or if he's just in it just for the rock people, you know what I mean?
So you didn't get to jump right in on, say, Slayer. It was more like, I want to sex you up type music.
Yeah, no, and see, yeah, exactly. But see, the thing is at that time we had a really kick-ass concert promoter here in Las Cruces. Her name was Barbara Hubbard, and everybody called her Mother Hubbard, right? You know what I mean? So she had that little nickname, and we have a university over here. It's called New Mexico State University, the Aggies, and we have a pretty decent basketball team. We usually make it into the big dance every year, and but anyway, so we have one of their arenas where they play basketball, and then right next to it is where the football team plays right there. So, it's a pretty decent little, it gets packed, during the fall time, whenever the students come back. But anyway, so we had a really great promoter, and she brought everything here. Well, so, I mean, I'm talking about every genre.
When you say everything, that's kind of the next thing I wanted to talk to you about. I know from just the stuff that, you put out there on the fan page and you and I messaging, you've met everybody. You've probably met as many celebrity musicians, famous musicians as Eddie Trunk has. You're not necessarily friends with them, but was it that job that led to your access to everybody? Because I saw pictures of you with Lemmy and the guys in Metallica. And by the way, when I saw, I was envious as, wow, look at Derrick go. But then when I saw the picture of you in Hetfield, the almighty James Hetfield, I was like, okay, now I'm jealous. So it's like,
yeah.
So did that?
And that's.
Did that gig
go
that you
ahead.
kind of went on to do? Is that what got you all the access to all these musicians at first?
Oh yeah, exactly. That's directly where it came from, and literally that very first concert. And just to put this out there, I'm a lover of all genres, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I guess kind of like the way Eddie is, but he's more into, you know, the heavy metal stuff like that. But I actually liked. I mean, when I was a kid, I still have my original boombox from like 1981.
Oh,
you know, the one I used to lug around when I was a kid, and I actually used to break dance. So I was there at the beginning of when rap even started.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And I like it. You know what I mean? To tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Exactly. So, you know, for me, just getting to the concert and getting inside there and having that actual feeling of, you know, it's not really being above anybody, you know, and I wasn't trying to be, because we had, you know, backstage passes or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like more of the feeling of being behind the scenes, you know what I mean? You're like, wow, this is freaking crazy. Like I didn't know this happened, you know what I mean, back here, or, oh, this is the way that happens, you know what I mean? So we used to be able to get in there. You know, a lot of people go to concerts, you know, they don't even really think they go in there, they see the stage, they don't really see what the whole deal is about the production of it going up, you know what I mean, and how crazy the workers do from like literally, you know what I mean, 5 or 6 in the morning once the trucks get there, how much work those guys do. And over here at the basketball arena, there's a big slope where they have to take the equipment down, and they have like little like vehicles or whatever, like with big old tires, where they would stack like the travel boxes or whatever, you know, the big equipment,
mm-hmm.
and they would take them down like a big snake, and they would have to like push it together and keep it controlled. You know what I mean? It was crazy, and just watching a stage go from nothing to all the way to like right at showtime. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's crazy, man, whenever you get to see that whole perspective.
And just
and then seeing
all the musicians you've met, man. I've met couple handfuls of them, but you've met everyone. Real quick, to switch gears a little bit, when did Eddie Trunk come on your radar? Was it with that metal show, or?
No, it was actually before. Whenever he was talking about his days on VH1 Classic, whenever he would,
okay, yeah.
Like whenever he'd be like a guest VJ. Yeah, he had his rock. I mean, like, you know, like he had his video segment or whatever.
Yeah,
he would do MTV.
There. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. And then so because over here in New Mexico, I didn't really know of or either that or got the syndication from his New York.
Well, of course,
his radio stuff like that. So that's all. Yeah, you know what I mean. So I wouldn't know anything about any of his, you know, like actual terrestrial radio stuff. I just saw him on TV. I think he was on there, and that other guy, this other VJ, his name is Matt Pinfield. I'm not sure if you remember him from MTV.
He still
yeah.
Radio.
So
yeah.
Yeah, so see, those two always, whenever they came on, I'd be like, oh man, these guys play some kick-ass videos, you know what I mean? Or they have some interesting stuff to say. So that's a reason why I would always tune into them. And then whenever I did see that, you know, that metal show for the first time, I'm like, what the hell is this? This is badass, you know what I mean? I'm like, they're literally, it was so cool that, you know, to have that. And I really wish that they would release those out, like on even DVDs. I guarantee those things would sell. You know what I mean? Like a box set or something like that, just to have all those.
Yeah, they won't release anything, and they own the rights to it, so it's definitely out of Trunk's hands, you know.
Yeah, exactly. I wish Viacom or whoever owns it would just, you know what I mean, release it to him or let somebody else have it.
Dust.
Mm-hmm.
But, I knew of Eddie Trunk because I would read magazines and things like that back in the day, and I'd see his name, and he had been in the New Jersey market for a long time. But yeah, I didn't get introduced to him either until VH1 and that metal show and everything. And of course, when that metal show premiered, I was like, oh yeah, this is me. 3 geeks talking about hard rock and heavy metal. This is me. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
And I was there, you know, faithfully all the time, just like I am with his show now. And now, I wanted to ask you this, and this may be a tough question for you. Out of all the rock/metal people you've met, what's the one you put on the pedestal? Because, I mean, you've met them all, dude. I've seen the pictures. I know a little bit about your history, a little bit about your story. If you had to pick one, which would have to be very tough for you, who would it be?
You know what? Dang.
Yeah, I figured it'd be tricky for you.
Yeah, no, because there's a couple that are right there at the very top, and there's for the most part, they were all really cool, but as far as nostalgia part, since maybe, and I'm kind of biased to this because since I was like crushed hard whenever Eddie Van Halen died, right?
Yeah.
And so I think either the two ones that are tied at the top, but I'm probably gonna teeter a little bit more towards Eddie would be Eddie and Ozzy, and I whenever I started working and started meeting people, I'm the type of dude, and always have been, that I've never really been starstruck, you know what I mean? Because I don't like doing that, because it makes because to me, in my mind, they're a person too, you know what I mean? So so if I was famous, I wouldn't want somebody just running up on me and just crying and all this stuff. I'm like, what is going on here? And and that's the reason why.
Well, unless it's a hot chick.
Oh yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? Of course, I have my I have my weaknesses too. But yeah, but you know what I mean. But you know what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Just like, oh my God, hey, just calm down. You know what I mean? It's like
anytime I've approached somebody I admire in that world, I always just say, hey man, how's it going? I'm not gonna do this. Oh my God,
Yeah. So to answer your question, it'd probably be whenever I got to take a picture with Van Halen on for a Lawful Carnal Knowledge tour over here in El Paso. When we walked in that room, and we didn't have we actually didn't even have passes on that one, but we knew the bus driver. And he gave us tickets or whatever, but we were kind of like back there in the backstage area, because we started to get to know too a lot of the security people, so we could kind of bend the rules a little bit on where we could be, you know what I mean? But we wouldn't push the boundaries, you know what I mean? We'd be like, we know our places, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, so we were back there kind of in this area, and the bus driver's like, hey, what are you guys doing? We're like, no, we're just kicking back. He's like, hey, so I'll come over here real quick. And he like shoved us into this room, and they're like, yeah, what is this? And it was, it's Van Halen right there. We're like, what the hell? It's badass. So, they came up, the production people just said, hey, everybody get ready when you get up there. You're just going to jump in real quick. We're going to take a professional picture of ours. Then you guys move, you know what I mean? Then go ahead and take off or whatever. And we're like, all right, cool. So we actually jumped in there, and I was, and to this day, Ray, I don't know where that picture is, because we never got.
Yeah, because I was getting ready to ask you about that, because that definitely would have been one I would have seen from you, I would think, because come on.
Oh, dude, I'd have. Huh?
King Edward.
Yes,
yeah.
Dude, I was like three people from Edward. You know what I mean? And you're just kind of like. And whenever we got in there, you could say hi to them or whatever. It's not just, hey, just get up there. We're like, oh shit, hey, what's going on or whatever. And then like, okay, yeah, everybody get together, cool like that. But they weren't just up, get in there, get out. You know what I mean? And so
Right.
You got to just speak a few words or whatever. And I was like, bro. And my friend, he's like, he told us whenever we were in line, he's like, I'm getting right next to Eddie. I don't care. So I was like, you know what? To me, I was happy because I was in the presence of Van Halen.
Of course.
As it is. Yeah, so I'm like, dude, this is badass enough. I don't care where I am. You know what I mean? Just put me in the picture. So, and Ray, this is the truth. Back in the day, I had the 35 millimeter camera, that I always kept with me. And going up there to take a picture, I gave it to the bus driver who got us in. And I said, hey, once they take the professional one, can you take one with my camera, right? Mm-hmm. So I asked him that, and then so when we went up there, I was already assuming we're going to take one right here, and then we're going to take one more real quick one, with my camera. So they took the professional one, and then I was like kind of waiting, and then so they kind of like disbanded, and so we had to like take off. And I told him, I said, did you take it? He's like, oh damn, I forgot. I'm like, oh man. So right at that moment is whenever I turned around and I took that quick picture of Van Halen because we were the last group, and so he was taking pictures with with I guess maybe some of the production people like from Warner Brothers or whatever. It was somebody there because they had like Warner Brothers passes on.
Right.
And I'm not sure if you've seen that picture, if I posted it, or I mean I can send it to you. But in that picture is the one that I took of my camera, and they're just kind of like, it's Van Halen, and then there's like two. I think I posted it up there, and somebody said that one of them was Sammy Hagar's first wife, if I'm not mistaken, and then maybe somebody else in production. I don't know, something, but there's like three women up there. You know what I mean? They're like professional. Like look, they're dressed nice. You know what I mean? So you could tell there was somebody. But anyway, so that's the only picture that I have. But and I have another little story that was from. If you look in that picture, they have these little Van Halen promo posters that they always had up on the walls in the backstage area. And, back in the day, I used to see people just go take them off, and I'm like, well, shit. So I have one of those, and I still have it with me to this day. Like one of those promo pictures that was hung up in the backstage area.
Man,
but so that was very cool.
And you're just a couple years younger than I am, a few years younger than me. How old are you, Derrick?
I'm 52, getting ready to be 53 in July.
Okay, yeah, I'm 55. I'll be 56 in October. So I knew we were all in that same age range. But can I get into a little bit of your personal story?
Yeah.
You don't mind?
Yeah, no, not a problem, huh?
Okay, because I recently found out, and I'm so glad you're here rocking with me and everyone else. You're a cancer survivor, correct?
Oh, yes, sir. Yeah. I think I posted a pretty good little, it was kind of like an introduction thing.
Yeah.
I thought that it would kind of catch on. I mean, it didn't. I wasn't doing it to, for attention or whatever. I just said, hey, you know what? I thought that it would be a pretty cool little thing.
I know you well enough to know that you love this music and this world, and you never come off like that. You always come off very sincere and gracious.
Yeah, exactly. So I did, I posted on there. It was in 2017 that I started getting some pains in my upper back a little bit, and then in my lower stomach, and I thought, I didn't really think anything of it or whatever, and I had never really been to the doctor unless like something was wrong, you know what I mean? Like, but if something was wrong, I would go no matter what. I'm not gonna just be like, nah, it's not. But this one I was kind of like, well, I started having those pains, and then my family, or my mom, since everybody in my family had their gallbladders taken out, that's like one of the first symptoms, right? So I went and got a scan for it, and now they told me that everything came back, and my gallbladder looks good. So I still still had those pains, and it started getting a little bit worse. So I finally went to my doctor, and he sent me to the GI specialist or whatever, and they did an endoscopy, and then that's whenever they found that I had a tumor in my esophagus.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So basically, whenever the biopsy came back, it came out positive, and that was right around August or September of 2017. And then also during that year too, I put this, under my story on that one, was I started my weight loss.
I was going to lead into that, but
yeah.
My thunder.
Yeah, because it kind of goes hand in hand, in the story.
You lost like 100 pounds or?
It was like 165. I literally weigh 165 right now, so I lost half my weight.
Well, I noticed that because we kind of follow each other, and I noticed. In the older pictures, I was like, and then I'm seeing the newer pictures with you hanging out with musicians, and I'm like, wow. This guy,
yeah, exactly.
So, what I mean? Is this guy on the Ozempic, or what's going on here?
Yeah, no, that's what a lot of people ask me too. Yeah. And to tell you the truth, this is actually the second time. The first time that I had a major weight loss was in the early 2000s. And I did it through the Atkins way, which is basically, pretty much no carbs, back then. Yeah. So I had lost about 100 pounds back then, and I kept it off for about 2 or 3 years, and then I just started slacking, and then then it all came back again, plus more. So anyway, basically, at the beginning of 2017, I put my foot down again because I knew that I was going to have high blood pressure and all this stuff like that. So I had to get on those meds for a little bit. But so you know what I mean, whenever I'm the type of person, whenever I put my mind to something, it's going to happen. You know what I mean? So basically, I started doing my weight loss at the beginning of 2017. So by the time that I had been diagnosed with cancer, I had already been down probably a little bit over 100 pounds at that time. And whenever I went in, started to go for treatments, the doctors over there had told me that that was probably the best thing that I could have done for my cancer journey, was to have that weight loss off, you know what I mean, to be a lot healthier going into the battle.
Absolutely.
Instead of being, yeah, you know what I mean? So, but anyway, yeah, so I was diagnosed, you know, towards the end of the year, and I went in for treatments for chemo and radiation, from like September until about November. And then the doctors wanted me to go home for about 4 to 5 weeks to let my body heal from those treatments, and then to go back in January for my surgery. So that's when I did. And 3 days after, when my pathology report came out of surgery, that's whenever my oncologist told me that I was cancer free. So that was pretty awesome.
That's awesome, man. That is so awesome. And your story is just incredible, man. And you're so tenacious and such a go-getter. You know, it's like, I admire just how involved. Like, you're probably the top contributor, in my opinion, on the Fans of Trunk Nation Eddie Trunk fan page, because it's like, yeah, you're like always excited about this, you know. And I love that, and I think I've told you that too. And yeah, no, exactly. You know what I mean? And I feel, you know, when something kind of hits me, it's kind of like, well, you know, I jump on my phone real quick and just, you know, so then that way I don't forget it. And, right, you know, hopefully, and it's almost, and the way I take the Trunk Nation page is almost the way I take, going on live with Eddie. Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? I don't want to throw any clunkers out there. You know what I mean? To kind of, I guess, as you would say, you mean like in layman's terms, you know, you don't want to throw any clunkers out there. You know, you want to have something that really gets everybody engaged and, you know, talking about it or commenting or just whatever. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Because, you know, whether they agree with me or not, you know what I mean? At least somebody, you know, yeah, that's what it's for. It's for discussion. You know what I mean? Like, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
You know?
And you know, there's always going to be negativity on fan pages and some, you know, things like that. But as far as that fan page goes, it's pretty good. You know, there are going to be a few, you know, ups and downs and bumps in the road because, you know, somebody's offended by everything. You know, it's like, whatever.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. But or somebody's mad because they're.
I always look forward to what you have to say because it's always positive, and you know it's coming from a good place because you're a fan just like the rest of us. And if somebody takes it a certain way, it's simply ridiculous. You know, it's this hypersensitive world we live in, and I don't know. And I know we're on limited time here, but before I let you go, I asked you about the, you know, person you met thing, but I got to say, you've been to around 1,000 concerts. If you had to pick one, what was your favorite? What was the best one for you? The one that sticks. And I know that's going to be a difficult question too. And it better not be Color Me
Well,
Bad.
You know what? Dang! Okay, well then, you know, I guess I'm gonna have to hang up on you then, man. No, I'm just joking. You know what? You know what? I had this, you know, this question's come up a lot. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because pretty much everybody that knows me, like personally, like even like in town or whatever, you know what I mean? Like people here, they're like, you know, they know me and they, you know, they know how many people I've met and all this stuff like that backstage, you know, whatever. And they, you know, they always ask me, and this is before this certain concert that I'm going to tell you, you know, which is my favorite, you know, this is before that time with, you know, they'd ask me, hey man, so, you know, so what's your, you know, your the favorite or whatever. And I really didn't have any. I was like, you know what? I can't really pick one. It's like trying to pick one of, maybe you're like one of your kids, to be the favorite or whatever. And, I would just always kind of tell them maybe like my top three. Yeah, this one was up there. This one was really great.
I'm holding you to one, Derrick. You're
and I do have the answer. And the answer for that one is going to be, it's Roger Waters whenever he did Pink Floyd's The Wall in its entirety.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about like, I'm sure you or anybody that has ever seen the movie The Wall and heard the soundtrack, or you know what I mean?
Of course,
that's exactly the way. That's exactly the way the concert was, and that's and for me, I used to see whenever I'm not sure, like in the 80s or 90s, whenever Pink Floyd reunited again and they did The Wall, and I think it was like the anniversary of when the Berlin Wall went down.
I think a little of the friction was slightly lower between Waters and Gilmour at that point, because I know David came out and actually played on one of them.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember seeing like parts of it. It was either on MTV, because it was kind of a big deal. And I remember seeing them at the end of the concert. They were knocking the wall down. You know what I mean? Like the way in the movie too. And that's exactly the way this concert ended. Granted, I wish, Gilmour would have been there. That would have been the greatest thing ever. But with Roger Waters doing this, and dude, let me tell you, the way he okay, so at the beginning of the movie, when the dad is in the trenches or whatever at war, right? Yep. And then the airplane comes in, and that's when it crashes, and that's how it starts the movie. That's exactly the way it started in the concert. Like he actually had like a plane coming in on top of like the audience, and it hit like the top of the wall, and it
awesome.
like exploded. You kind of freaked out. You're like, what the hell's going on here?
That's insane. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
You remember who played Pink in the movie, right?
Oh, no, who was it?
Bob Geldof, who got together.
Oh, Bob Geldof. Yeah. Okay, yes. Yep. To do Live Aid, right?
Yes. And he was also involved with that. He was also involved with that recent document. He was involved with that "We Are the World, USA for Africa" thing too, because he was in that documentary that Eddie's been talking about lately.
Oh yeah.
He was a really ambitious humanitarian and philanthropist.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, whenever people now, after that concert, when they tell me or when they ask me that, because to me, I explain it. I explain it to them. Say that was like it was like a mixture between like a concert, a Broadway show, and like a musical or something like that, because of just the way it went through like the movie, but in a rock sense, and then but in a I've never been to like a Broadway show or whatever, but right. From the stuff that I've seen, like just clips of others, I'm like, that's exactly the way this was, you know what I mean? So it literally blew my mind. And I was drinking beer at the time, and I didn't want to leave because I wanted to see what was coming up next. It's just like, dude, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Well, you should have.
You
should have wore a diaper like Richard Christie does when he goes to see his bands. That way you wouldn't have to leave.
Yeah, exactly. So I wouldn't have to get up and go to the bathroom. Exactly. Yeah.
Man, it sounds
so now I know to do that.
Like it encompassed the full experience of all those entities you just talked about. So that's cool. But look, man, I know you're on limited time, and you got to get rolling, and I've got to get rolling, and to our busy lives, but I really appreciate you being my first guest, man, and you could be my last. I'll have to see how this shit show plays out.
Yeah, no, I actually, and I do appreciate it, and I'm actually kind of flattered and honored to be your first guest on there. But yeah, no, you know what, I think if you put it out there, people will like it, and then if people, if you for other people that have, may have interesting stories, or people that you want to, get on air too, that'd be pretty awesome.
Yeah, my plan
Go
is
ahead.
to interview, some of the people on the fan page that I knew you'd have an interesting story because I knew a bit about you. So interview a few, and then I'm thinking about some of the local musicians that I'm friends with, and I'm friends with a couple of people in tribute bands, maybe grabbing them. Ultimately, I'd like Eddie to come on, but that's the fingers crossed kind of thing. But
yeah, well, actually, see, the thing you could do is, if you put it on the page, and then, like maybe after a couple of interviews, you know what I mean, like with me and a couple other people, once it gets a couple on there, maybe when the next or whenever you get on air at that time, you could just mention to him, say, hey, Eddie, you know what I mean, like I've been doing this little podcast type thing, you know what I mean? Check out my interviews if you want on the page. You don't have to comment or nothing.
The only thing is I wouldn't want to put Eddie on the spot on air, so I would maybe bring it up to AJ or something to drop him.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Something.
Yeah,
like that.
That's true.
I wouldn't want to put him on the spot because that's not a cool thing.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, because I remember him saying that, that people have asked him to be on their podcast, and he's kind of like, well, he's like, everybody can do it or whatever, stuff like that. So, I'm sure it's going to be, who knows, since it's an actual.
Eddie knows me. I've met him, and, we had a nice little chit chat, and you've met Eddie, and just a regular nice guy.
Yeah.
And he does go on podcasts. He will be a guest on the podcast, so that's down the road. Let's see how it works out. But I really appreciate and want to thank you for being my first guest, Derrick. I think your story's amazing. I think you're a great dude, and I know we'll be chatting again soon. And thank you so much for doing this, man.
Yeah, definitely, man. Not a problem, dude. Yeah, just said, anytime, just hit me up, and I guess granted, our time difference and our differences in work schedules, but we can always work something out. Not a problem, just like we did today. So
absolutely. All right, my friend, I will let you go, and we will chat again soon.
All right, cool, Ray. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
All right, bye, Derrick.
All right, we'll talk to you later. Later.
And there you have it, my interview with Derrick from New Mexico. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And again, I do apologize for my microphone issues, and I promise you that it'll be corrected for any future episodes. Anyway, episode 1 of Carrick's Car Wreck with Ray from Maryland is in the books, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. Take care.